Hello, everyone. My name is Anthony Passmart. I'm the General Manager for AWS Creative Tools. And we're here today to talk about our remote future, which could be our present future, in fact, for game creation and collaboration with AWS. So let's kick it off and say the world has changed. But, those changes had started before 2020. If you think about 2019 and before, the idea of remote game production was getting traction thanks to technology advancements such as improved bandwidth and streaming protocols, among other things, that made it possible. Even game engine technologies such as Unreal and Unity had been steadily improving for years, providing better workflows with other GCC tools and increasingly improving the fidelity of real time. As such, we've seen increased demand for technology in other industries such as M&E and AEC, engineering construction. Tools like Incredibuild and Perforce were improving build pipelines and production management, respectively. But then 2020 happened, and things went from interesting to necessary. Game Studio had to find ways to keep production moving despite obstacles presented by the lingering situation. Game studios not only had to figure out how to better work with remote workers, but also how to onboard new workers without compromising security and IP by shipping out machines to random locations. Game studios were also facing a shortage of talent in their geography, being bound by a physical location, and had to access talent everywhere. And this started to shift the thinking of many industries, including game, of needing to have everybody under the same roof and deliver projects. With remote work likely here to stay, game studios have been evaluating options. And so what is AWS doing for game production in that context? Well, to make remote game a reality and making it viable, game studios will need to access a global infrastructure that is able to serve their distributed workforce and customers. They'll need fast GPUs based on virtual workstations and access through snappy and versatile streaming protocols. They also need dedicated services such as rendering services, for example. If you think about AWS Global Cloud Infrastructure is the most secure, extensive, and reliable cloud platform, offering over 200 fully featured services for data centers globally. Whether you need to deploy your application workload across the globe in a single click, or if you want to build and deploy specific application closer to your end user with single-digit millisecond latency, AWS provides you the cloud infrastructure where and when you need. To complement the global infrastructure, AWS started deploying at rapid pace what we called local zones. We already deployed 16 local zones available today in the US and already announced 32 more in 26 countries in the rest of the world. And we can provide even more ways to have single-digit millisecond latency where you need it for you and your customers. When you're remote, you need remote workstations. But game studios cannot compromise on performance. AWS is constantly investing to bring new types of instances to our customers. The latest one is the G5 instance. G5s are powerful GPU-based instances featuring 8 NVIDIA A10G GPUs. Has huge bandwidth, up to 7.6 terabyte of local NVMe SSD storage. If you're familiar with our current powerful machines like the G4DNs, the G5s have 3 times better graphic performance. It's not always needed though, and this is why customers can choose which machine they need for what kind of workload that they need and when they need it, and only pay for what they need. To access virtual workstations, AWS has invested in NiceDCV that was acquired in 2016. NiceDCV allows for high-performance remote display of dual-screen 4K support at 60 frames per second. NiceDCV offers great hardware support as well, such as the Wacom tablet, if you have artists that want to sculpt characters or paint textures. NiceDCV has been adopted by internal services that you may know, like AppStream or Amazon Nimble Studio, that we'll talk more about, but also by customers such as Netflix or Quantic Dream. NiceDCV continues to evolve and improve based on our customer needs and feedback, and we consider it a great protocol for our customers, giving you the feel of a local workstation. Customers across the industry know ThinkBox because of our flagship product Deadline, a render queue manager. Since the acquisition of ThinkBox, we have worked on improving the workflow and experience of Deadline on AWS with motions like free Deadline on AWS or Render Farm Development Kit. Customers can use spot instances to spin up massive amount of compute to do their rendering job. And one example of a customer using Deadline is Sony Interactive. Deadline was used to render a cinematic sequence of one of their car racing games. They were under heavy time crunch and were about to miss the launch deadline. Using Deadline and the RFDK to deploy a farm in AWS, the team in charge of the project was able to render 12 times faster than their on-prem solution and their on-prem farm and hit the mark. That was a great success, and you can learn more actually. There's a session on YouTube from our AWS reInvent session in 2020 that talks more about this use case. One thing that is important though is that we don't just support Deadline, but any render manager on AWS, including house-built or custom solutions. Customer choice is critically important for AWS, and we want them to use the tool they love for what they need. So we support things like Pixar Tractor, Muster, SquidNet, OpenQ, whatever suits your needs can be run on AWS. And finally, I want to talk about a project that's dear to AWS. It's the O3DE project. O3D is an open source 3D game engine under the Apache 2.0 license. It features a modern component-based architecture and uses open standards such as CMake build systems. The community is fast growing around this project, and we're very proud to support the open source community ourselves and support the creation of games by more creatives with open source solutions. Many customers have had success deploying virtual studios in the cloud already, but these tools and capabilities can sometimes be a bit daunting for customers. And we want to simplify access to this transformation to the cloud. And to do so, we announced last year the general availability of Amazon Nimble Studio. Amazon Nimble Studio simplifies how you build and operate a cloud-based studio. Nimble Studio allows you to easily gain access to a GPU-based virtual workstation, cloud rendering capability, and share storage for the creatives and developers in your studio. Amazon Nimble Studio deploys dozens of services in a coherent studio in less than 3 hours, where it would take you probably weeks to set up yourself. When Nimble Studio launched, we initially targeted 3 types of customers: the animation studios, the 3D animation studios, the VFX studios, and the interactive content creation. Interactive content was how we wanted to support game developers. Nimble Studio is today available in 4 regions in the US, London, and Sydney, as well as 1 local zone in LA, very popular local zone, in fact. And today we're announcing Nimble Studio for Games, part of a broader AWS Games initiative launched here at GDC that includes public preview of Amazon Game Sparks or the general availability of AWS Game Kit. Nimble Studio supports CI/CD pipeline with Incredibuild, production tracking with Perforce, and it's underpinned, obviously, with the AWS infrastructure and technology, providing the power you need to build games. So let's look at a quick demo of the solution.
Amazon Nimble Studio provides infrastructure for creative studios. We will quickly demonstrate how Nimble can be deployed for game development studios. Nimble deploys Perforce Helix Core and Swarm into a studio account. Here, you can see Unreal Tournament assets loaded into Perforce in our demo studio. Nimble also deploys a Jenkins server, an Incredibuild coordinator, and Incredibuild agents into the demo studio. Jenkins has been configured to point to our demo studio's server, as seen here, so that we can easily commit changes and kick off builds to Incredibuild, where it will be automatically accelerated by our studio's cloud computing power. When we submit a commit change to Perforce, Jenkins kicks off the Incredibuild process automatically. Once completed, the latest build version can be downloaded from S3 by any studio workstation, extracted, and loaded into Unreal. And now that our latest build is loaded into Unreal, running on Nimble Studio, all that's left to do is play.
Nimble Studio acts as the central hub for your studio infrastructure and provides you a single point of configuration. When you deploy Nimble Studio, you have the ability to manage your users by creating accounts for them. Developers and creative will be able to log in through a user-friendly portal and then never have to see the AWS console. They can collaborate remotely because all the infrastructure is in the cloud. They don't need to be in the same physical location. They can access project data on a scalable cloud file system. This means that when they need more space, you can just add it with a click of a button. Archiving all projects to lower cost can be done with Glacier storage, for example, just as easily. Your developers and creative can render on elastic cloud-based render farm. When you need more render resources the most, they are already on hand. So crunch time becomes less stressful, and you can iterate more often to improve the quality. And of course, the SDK gives you more power to customize your studio and leverage all the AWS services that are available to you. Nimble Studio leverages nice DCV streaming protocol to access the virtual workstation as we discussed. So studio admins can set up various reusable Amazon machine images with all the software, the tools, the plugin that the game developers need. These AMIs can run on a range of GPU-powered virtual workstation. We talked about the GeForce DN, for example, and the OS of your choice using the DCCs and the game engines of your choice. All of this is in a secure virtual environment for your employees and temps. In terms of pricing and cost, we wanted the pricing to be simple and predictable for studios. The studios see a per hour price for all those features based on region, instance size, and OS choices. But then we bundled the tools a developer and creative would need to be productive, like working storage drive, enough streaming to cover the dual 4K screens, and while they're working. So those are all bundled in a single price. So you don't have to think about those costs. Since launch, the team has been pushing really hard to incorporate our customers' feedback. And these are some of the highlights we launched in the second half of the year. Amazon Nimble Studio is moving very fast, constantly adding value for customers. And in other words, a lot has been released in 2021. And so I wanted to focus on just a few. So when we launched, for example, we proposed an ephemeral model for workstations, which required that every new workstation be provisioned from an approved AMI set up by the studio admin. This has its benefit, but our customers wanted fast boot. So we introduced the ability to start and stop a workstation in under 2 minutes. This is the same as turning off your machine in the evening and turning it back on in the morning. Except you do not pay for the use of the machine in the meantime. We also added APIs that allow studio admin to control the workstation by reprovisioning them from a main AMI if they need to. So that gives a lot of flexibility for the studio to manage the state of those machines in the studio. When a developer stops the workstation, any modification or customization done to their environment is now preserved in a persisting EBS volume attached to the machine. What this means is that if updates were applied or a Git repo was pulled to work locally on the workstation, if the artist has made any changes or customization, it's there when they restart the next day. This is particularly important in game development with games engine like Unreal or Unity or 3D, where the initial work environment setup can take hours, if not days sometimes. And developers like to have their own customized environment for efficiency. You don't want to lose that. It has to feel natural, like a local machine. Studio admins were also asking for more ways to test and prepare environment for artists and developers. And we provided them features like the launch profile test launch. Studio admins are able to validate the launch profile for their artist before making them available, ensuring that the developer, the creative experience is seamless. We're constantly talking to our customers about ways to improve the experience with Nimble Studio. In 2022, we'll have a particular focus on helping customers collaborate more by helping them get access to the data they need where they need it, including expanding into new regions. We will also allow game studios to bring more of their own technology and integrate with vendors they love, like we did with Cumulo and Weka on the file system side, for example. And we cannot wait to see what customers are going to do with Nimble Studio. So to get started, a few resources are available to you now. Obviously, the main Nimble Studio site on aws.amazon.com/Nimble Studio. We also have lots of documentation. How do you set up Perforce, Helix Core, or Incredibuild? And also, you should look at the other AWS for Games announcements that we're doing this week with blogs and that you can find there on that link. So on that note, I thank you very much and hope you enjoy the conference.